Hello, Ocho Libre here, and very excited to take you on a tour of King Pleasure. This is the new exhibit, which is now currently in LA, was in New York for about a year, put on by the estate of Jean Michel Basquiat, who died in 1988, in case you don't know. So this is super interesting because it's a lot of new works that I've never seen before. Anyway, if you can't make the tour personally, which I highly suggest, at least you can get a taste of it here. So driving down to LA, there is still snow in the mountains. It is now April. And I parked down below this cool building, which it turns out, I didn't know, is also a Frank Gehry building, and which is the location of the show. It's right across from the, also designed by Frank Gehry, Disney Music Hall, and catty corner to the Broad, which is an amazing museum that also has a lot of Basquiat paintings and is worth checking out. So the exhibit is actually in 3 or 4 or 5 different rooms. It's not a giant space, but many spaces, and it's super cool. You walk through, and there are tons of old drawings and early stuff. But right in the beginning is this magnificent head. I really love the heads, skulls that Basquiat did. Super colorful, amazing. This is a fairly small one, but he did several very large ones. And as a bonus, stay till the end and I may show you some extra cool Basquiat stuff. So there are a ton of drawings and early works by Basquiat. This is sort of his caricature of himself, self-portrait. A lot of what do you call it, collage paper on board and then painting on top of the paper and stuff like that. I'm not going to go through every single drawing, but it was interesting. Here's sort of Picasso-esque type thing. It was interesting to see some of his early stuff, some of his early doodles. This is actually a video of the first room you go through, and some of the early works, mostly on paper, that are in that room. A lot of his very childish, kind of cartoon-like drawings. Maybe these were done when he was only 10 years old, I don't know. But this painting we got to talk about. This is, quote-unquote, an oxidation painting. What they don't say in the tag is it's more commonly known as a piss painting. It is a portrait done by Andy Warhol, and basically what he did is he took photographs. He was famous for this. He took photographs and he converted them into silkscreen prints from which he was able to mass produce these copies. But in this case, he used copper paints on them and then peed on the paints. Whether he did it or other of his friends did it is unsure, but he peed on it and it changed into these, it oxidized and created these greens and different colors that you see. At any rate, apparently there were only 3 made. This one, which the family has, and then this second one here, which sold for $40 million. It's 40 inches by 40 inches in 1921. And then there's this fakey one that I found on First Dibs, which is available for $30,000. I don't know what the story is. But the one I took the picture of here, unfortunately, has some reflections in, so I wanted to show you some other ones as well. Lots and lots of drawings of Basquiat's. Again, I'm not going to talk about every single one, but you kind of have to wonder why Basquiat's stuff ended up selling for such outrageous prices. This one here is called Boxeo. Apparently this was a Spanish broadcast TV show for boxing, which they used to watch when he was very young. I guess his father was an avid boxing fan, and Basquiat converted that one into a painting. But anyway, look at these images, these cars. I mean, they're childlike, and when you see them on big paintings, they still look childlike. What is this, a cop or something like that? Oh, this is kind of cool. It's sort of the first drawing they show of the crown, and it's drawn on a window frame. You can see it's a piece of, it's an actual window with glass, so it's painted on glass. In any case, I love Basquiat's stuff, but it reminds me of a quote I read by Larry Gagosian, the Uber dealer, talking about Twombly, who Basquiat was also a big fan of. When you look at his art, you really like it, but you don't really know why. What I have to say, what's interesting to me, I mean, it's big, it's colorful, it's bright, it's audacious. I like to look at the little words and see what he's reading about, you know, how it's kind of like a mind dump. He's spewing out his inner consciousness onto the paper. And that's fascinating, to me anyhow. I assume to everybody else as well. By the way, the painting below is called In This Case, done in 1983. In 2021, it sold for $93 million. I used it as a filler while I was gabbing away. So the exhibit is divided up into a bunch of different rooms. This room was called World Famous 1982 in reference to Basquiat's extreme skyrocketing fame from being a graffiti artist in 1980 to worldwide acclaim by 1982. Again, he died in 88, so only lasted 6 more years. But this is an example of one of the heads. I really like the heads that he did. There's a couple over at the Broad Museum, but this particular one I had never seen before. I like the green. They're known for being very ferocious and colorful. This is a painting called Venus, and it's no secret that he was heavily influenced by Cy Twombly. I did an interesting video on a museum exhibit at the Getty on Twombly if you'd like to look at that. But you can see this painting is interesting because it's literally on sticks. Canvas is kind of slapped on, which was supposedly because he didn't have any frames in the beginning, any stretcher bars. But very rustic and graffiti-like, a lot of words, a lot of mixed images, a lot of cartoons, and a lot of color. The next room is called Blue Ribbon. And as he moved from 1982 onwards, you can see he still did a lot of primitive paintings, but he kind of quickly moved on from his early beginnings in the art world to his superstardom. Supposedly he sold his first picture to Debbie Harry for $200, and that was in 1981. Wonder if she still has it. And then by the next year he was making about 5 to 10 grand per painting, and by 85 he was making about 10 to 25 grand per painting. This painting here, I believe, was one of the last paintings he did and apparently gave to his father, Bernard. You can see kind of a close-up up there. So obviously still in the family estate. And you can see he's moving to paintings on regular canvases. I thought this one was particularly intriguing. I don't even know the name of it, but I took a couple of close-up detail shots on the drawings. So most of the painting is painted over, but you can still see that he wrote over the entire canvas. He just covered a lot of it up. And in the little areas there are not only a lot of words, but a lot of little drawings, all kinds of things. And I think this is one of the things that attracts me to Basquiat's art, is just sort of figuring out what the hell he's thinking. Here's another one I had never seen before, and besides being an awesome blue color, I love the way it's just so simple. It's only got 2 colors and a bunch of doodling. But when you start looking at it, it's got some weird chemical words and death off the market, things like that. Apparently, he started writing not for sale and off the market on some of his paintings because people were bothering him and trying to buy his paintings before they were even done. Here's just a quick look at some more drawings to keep this video from going over a half an hour. I'm not going to describe every single one, but you can see, you know, he obviously cartooned, doodled, sketched all the time and developed all kinds of symbols and symbolism and things that he would use in his paintings later on. This particular one here is called Jawbone of an Ass. This was done in 1982. And you can see in the painting all kinds of things, of course, but he's done a lot of collage. He's put a lot of paper on here, random. It's got the old sort of framing of a canvas over some random pieces of wood, and it's got more pieces of paper glued onto it. Here's a detail of what it looks like up close. Here's a sketch that probably was used as a study for that other painting. You can see his doodles on the jawbone. And here is an icebox door. He did a couple. This is kind of a rudimentary one. And a whole bunch of other drawings, which brings us to our next room, the Great Jones Street Studio. I believe this was the studio that he rented from Andy Warhol. But there was a recreation, and here's a video. I thought this was really fun. You can almost imagine yourself standing inside of Basquiat's studio with paintings all over the place, some jazz on, some fine bottles of Merlot, lots of drugs, cocaine. It's the 80s. Basquiat working away on all kinds of paintings, the mad genius. Fascinating to me. There was even a video of him actually painting. And this painting, which is actually on glass, leads us to our second to last room called Royalty. And Royalty is attributed to many of Basquiat's heroes, like Bird, the jazz player, various black athletes, boxers. You'll see here several of them are mentioned. Again, I like this one. I love the color. You can see Sugar Ray. I think there's Cassius Clay in there. Some, boxing. I don't know what 59 refers to. This is obviously a buildingscape. But there's a picture of Bird, Charlie Parker, and another tribute to Bird. I particularly liked this painting. Again, you can see something crossed out. This one's a Jesse Owens one. You can see he's detailing the leg of Jesse Owens, a famous World War II athlete, when the Nazis held the Olympics. And finally, the final room before the souvenir store is a recreation of the Paladium nightclub in New York. Basquiat did the VIP room with this huge mural. Really cool, and they had a life-size recreation of it. And here's a little bit of a detail. I hope this video isn't boring. Of course, if you like Basquiat and you can't make the show, I'm hoping it's a way that you can see all of his work, and hopefully the show will come to a city near you. At any rate, the final stop was the souvenir store, and I didn't buy anything because t-shirts were $150, jackets were like $300, $400, extremely expensive, but some cool stuff. And for those of you who want more information, this is a book I read on Basquiat. It's about his relationship and his life with his girlfriend Suzanne. There are a couple of other books out too now. And I'm going to do a second video, because this one got so long, about the Broad Museum, which is right across the street and has some really great Basquiats, some big Basquiats that Eli Broad and his wife apparently purchased from him way back in the 80s. Obviously, Eli Broad, the billionaire guy, is a very astute art collector, or he and his wife are. And they were right there with Basquiat in the beginning. They snapped up a bunch of his work. So check that out. It's also on my YouTube station at Ocho Libre. And check out my art at ocholibre.com. Thank you very much. See you next time.